what is this cycle of erosion? What is this cycle of erosion? So as per Davis, cycle of erosion is simply what Davis have suggested. Try to understand. Davis have suggested, we'll see the graphical presentation. Now try to understand, there are few things. Let's say this is mountain. So the mountain, the maximum height of the mountain is being considered as the absolute relief. So this is the peak of the mountain. So this mountain, this peak from the base level. So let's say this is your base level. So from this base level, this height will be considered as absolute relief. But generally what happens in mountainous area, you will find, let's say this is base. So in mountainous area, most of the places you will find structure is like mountain valley. So this is maximum height of the mountain. So this is referred as absolute relief. This is referred as absolute relief. Now this height, this is valley. So the floor of valley from the base level. So from the base level to floor of valley, this is your valley height, or you can say valley relief. So this is mountain relief, this is valley relief. This mountain relief, the maximum height it is having is referred as absolute relief. Now the difference, this height, the height between maximum height of the mountain to the valley floor, maximum height of the mountain to valley floor is known as relative relief. Is known as relative relief. So absolute relief is the maximum height of the mountain. Then you will have the floor, valley floor. Valley floor is having some height from the base. Now this floor of the valley is having some height from the apex of mountain, and this is known as relative relief. So absolute relief and absolute relief and relative relief, you should have a clarity. Now in this diagram, let's say, if I'll say that this is A, this is B, this is C. So try to understand. This AC is your absolute relief. AC is your absolute relief. AB is your valley floor's height. AB is your valley floor's height. And this BC is your relative relief. BC is your relative relief. So you need to have clarity about the absolute relief and the relative relief. Now, try to understand the idea of Davis. Now, Davis is saying any landform development will start from the plane. So, the landform development will start from the plane, and the landform development will start with sudden and rapid upliftment. The landform development will start with sudden and rapid upliftment. So, this is sudden. This is the rapid upliftment. And when we have the upliftment, there will not be any kind of exogenic forces. So, only endogenic forces are active. So, this is one of the very big criticism of the Davis, because the Davis is considering that only you will have a endogenic forces will be active, not the exogenic forces. And in fact, as I said, that both endogenic and exogenic forces will work in tandem. So, Davis is saying that the landform development will start from the plane and there will be a sudden and rapid upliftment. Once the upliftment will ceases, then will start the landform development through the exogenic process. Or you can say the cycle will start once the rapid and sudden upliftment will ceases. Now, if you will try to understand what is cycle of erosion? What is cycle of erosion as per Davis? Cycle of erosion is that time period from when the mountain has attained its maximum height, and how it has attained the maximum height due to the sudden and rapid upliftment. So, from the time the mountain has attained the maximum height and to the next time up to which this high mountain is turning to a plane-like surface, that is peneplane, this entire time process is referred as cycle of erosion. So, this cycle of erosion is the time from when the mountain is being turned down to a plane-like surface. And how the mountains are being torn down like a plane-like surface? Through the different stages: youthful stage, maturity stage, old stage. And who is actually turning down this mountain to a plane-like surface? That is your river. So, primarily, this entire time period is known as cycle of erosion. This entire time period from when this mountain has attained the maximum height. How it has attained the maximum height? It has attained the maximum height through the sudden and rapid upliftment. So, if you will closely look out, that what was the idea of the Davis as far as landform development, you will find he is simply saying that there will be a sudden and rapid upliftment. Sudden and rapid upliftment. Once this sudden and rapid upliftment will ceases, then will start the cycle. And how the cycle will move? Cycle will move in 3 stages: youthful stage, maturity stage, old senile stage. And the landform, that is mountain, this landform will transform into a plane-like surface. So, from this point to this point is your cycle of erosion. So, it will passes through different stages. It will passes through different stages. So, what happens? Initially, in the youthful stage, the upliftment have ceases, but still the erosion is not that much effective. So, mountain height will not decreases. So, mountain height is what? absolute relief, it will not decreases. But the floor of the valley will be eroded. So more and more erosion of the valley floor will happen. Because of that, the valley height will decreases. So if you will look out, let's say in this diagram, this is A, B, and let's say it is C and D. Now tell me whether the A, B is more height or CD is having more height. So it is very much clear that the CD is having more height. So if the CD is having more height, means relative relief is actually increasing. So in this stage, absolute relief is same, relative relief will increases. Now, in the next stage, and in a way you can say that Davis is saying that erosion is, you can say rivers are eroding the landform, but mountain is still have attained height, and the erosion have just started. So the landform, the absolute relief will not decreases that much. If you will look out that present day where we can have this kind of landform or in this stage. So most of the rivers in Himalayas, most of the rivers of mountain, so there the landform is in youthful stage. So here the river will create landform like waterfall, the river will create landform like gorges, like canyon, like V-shaped valley, deep V-shaped valley. So this valley, V-shaped valley, all these is the feature of particularly your youthful stage. When the time will gradually passes, obviously then vertical height of the mountain will also start eroding, more and more erosion. So the absolute relief will decreases. So in maturity stage, absolute relief will decreases. Absolute relief, you can say the mountain is losing its height. So mountain height, absolute relief is decreasing. When the mountain height is decreasing and also the valley height, the valley floor, it is also decreasing. So in a way, valley height, the valley floor's height is decreasing, but also the mountain height is decreasing. So if you will look out the relative relief, you will find that relative relief is more or less uniform. So in the first stage, height is more or less same, relative relief is increasing. In this case, absolute relief has started decreasing, but still relative relief is more or less same. This is the stage when most of the river will form flood plain. Most of the material will start deposition will started, and some of the landforms like meandering. So meandering will start because the river is not flowing very fast. So when the river is not flowing very fast, so obviously it will have more tendency to deposit the material, and if it will have more tendency to deposit the material, obviously the river will have tendency to form flood plain, or like flood plain will form, meandering will happen. And then the landform will reaches to the last stage. Last stage, when the landform will reaches, in this stage what will happen? In this stage, almost erosion has ceases. So here in this stage, erosion and deposition both happening. Obviously the erosion is not that much effective, but erosion will happen. But when the landform will reaches to this stage, in this stage you can say only deposition is happening. So in this stage only deposition is happening, and some of the landforms like Oxbow Lake will form. Then we will have in present day. So the Oxbow Lake, the delta is an example of this stage. Coming back to the discussion of Davis, what Davis was saying. So Davis have suggested that initially there will be a sudden and rapid upliftment. After this sudden and rapid upliftment, there will be a erosion. Erosion will start. So this erosion will affect more the valley. So valley floor will be eroded, due to which there will be a mountain will have more or less same height. So absolute relief will remain same, relative relief will increases. Later on, both erosion and deposition will happen. So the mountain height will decreases. Valley height will also decreases. So ultimately the relative relief will be more or less same. In last stage, erosion has almost ceases because most of the mountains have been eroded. The valley floor has reached to the base level. So now the erosion will stop, or you can say the mountains have been transformed into a featureless plain, and this featureless plain is being referred by the Davis as penny plain. So he simply suggested that ultimately in last stage this high mountain, this landform will be transformed into a flat featureless plain, which is being referred as penny plain. So penny plain is more or less flat. But yes, he accepted that at some of the places, this penny plane will have convexo-concave structure. Some of the independent rocks which are not going to transform into a flat featureless surface. So those independent rocks that are having convexo-concave shape has been referred as monadnocks. Like in most of the plateau region, in most of the desert region, some of the places, you will find some independent rocks. So independent rocks are there, and almost hundreds of kilometers you will not find any upliftment. So those kind of structure, those kind of topography is nothing but associated, or you can say it is a feature of monadnock. So if you will start looking out, so almost in case of youthful stage, the valley will be V-shaped valley, very deep, very narrow. So in case of youthful stage, the valley deepening will be more effective. So valley deepening is more effective. Valley deepening, there are two types of erosion: lateral erosion and the vertical erosion. So in case of youthful stage, vertical erosion, in case of youthful stage, the vertical erosion is mainly effective. When this reaches to the maturity stage, so in maturity stage, as I said, both erosion and deposition will happen. So simultaneously, the vertical erosion or the vertical cutting, vertical erosion will not that much effective as compared to lateral erosion. So the valley that has deepened, it has reached to the maximum depth mostly. Now this V-shaped valley will start transforming into the U-shaped valley. So this U-shaped valley, which will later on transform into the wide U-shaped valley, that is the feature of your maturity stage. In the end, the entire landscape has been transformed into a flat, featureless plain, which is being, some of the places, it is being characterized by some independent rocks. The independent rocks, and these are the convexo-concave shape, that is your monadnocks. So this is the idea of the Davis. This is the idea of the Davis associated with the landform development, how the landform will develop. So Davis theory, Davis concept is simply based cyclic concept. Cyclic concept means the landform passes through different stages: youthful stage, maturity stage, and the old stage, youthful, maturity, and old stage. Now,